All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Joining us right now, GOP political strategist, co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on today. Let's start off talking a little bit about Donald Trump. Apparently in the Veep stakes, there are two names that have been really floating around lately besides Newt Gingrich. And one of those is the Indiana governor, Mike Pence, who I guess he has to decide whether he's going to run for re-election or if he's going to run with Donald Trump as a vice presidential candidate. There are some stories that say that he's the leader right now. What do you think about Mike Pence, and do you think he would take the job?
Yeah, what's interesting about this is that, as you said, Pence faces a choice. Friday is the deadline to remove your name from the ballot in Indiana. Indiana state law prevents you from running for state and federal office at the same time. So that, in a way, forces Trump's decision. He can't choose Pence on Saturday because Pence can't run for re-election and vice president at the same time. So the thing that's really been so fascinating to me is I don't understand why Pence wants this. He endorsed Cruz in Indiana. Trump won Indiana by 17 points. Pence is a three-legged stool conservative. He's really a conservative movement leader and was in Congress and has been a conservative as governor. Trump's not someone that conservatives can trust. He's proven that. And so the risk here is all Pence's, because if he's asked to be vice president and does accept, then he wouldn't be able to run for governor again. And so in November, or I guess in January, he'll be out of a job, and his future would be tied to Donald Trump's. So based on the reporting we've seen from National Review and others, it sounds like Pence does want to do this, and he very well may get the request from Trump. Trump is going to be in Indiana tomorrow campaigning with Pence, attending a fundraiser as well that was previously scheduled. That would be a good time for them to meet privately and for Trump to make the ask if he's ready to do it.
Mike Pence, and you bring up that Mike Pence, the movement conservative, from everything that I have researched on the guy, seems like a very, very good conservative leader. If Trump chooses Pence and Pence says yes, does that bring along conservatives, you think? Does this smooth over that conservative Donald Trump divide?
I think it'll help a lot. I think it'll be a very, very popular choice at the convention and up on Capitol Hill. Pence was a deeply respected member of Congress. He was chairman of the Republican Study Committee, the conservative organization within the House. He was in leadership as the fourth-ranking Republican in leadership. He's a very likable, humble person, but he's very solid as a conservative. And so for conservative movement leaders, they'll know they have one of their own on the ticket and in the White House if Trump wins, someone they can go to, someone they can talk to about personnel, someone they can complain to, someone they can get intel from. It's a very positive thing. Whether individual voters will come along, I think that remains to be seen. Generally, people don't vote for vice president. They vote for president. And so the question for me is going to be, can Pence influence Trump? Can he move Trump in his direction to the right? I think that'll be a big question.
You know, and what you bring up, influence. When I look at Newt Gingrich, I think he is someone who can move Donald Trump. I think he is someone who can have influence over Donald. If anyone can have influence over Donald Trump outside of Trump's kids, it would maybe be a Newt Gingrich. I don't know enough about Mike Pence and his personality if he could move a Donald Trump. So it seems like to me a Newt Gingrich would be a better pick. Do you think there's a better pick out there besides Mike Pence?
I think in terms of doing the things that you need the VP pick to do for Trump, Pence is the best choice. I agree with you that Newt would probably be more effective internally in moving the candidate. But Newt has a lot more baggage than Pence has. He has a lot more enemies than Pence has. What's interesting to me about this is that Trump and Pence met for the first time last weekend, 10 days ago in New Jersey. Is Trump really going to pick someone who's going to be on the ticket with him and perhaps in the White House for 4 or 8 years, who he just met? It was an interesting story. I forget where it was. Newt Gingrich detailed the relationship that Newt and Trump have. And the relationship really started because Newt and his wife are members of Trump's golf course in Virginia. and they would often go play golf or whatever and end the night having dinner at the club, and Trump would be having dinner by himself, reading news articles and different things people had given him. And so Trump would invite them over, and they would have dinner together. And this would happen, several times over the last 4 or 5 years. And because of that, Newt and Trump have become, true friends. And so I agree with you that Newt would be more influential, but I also think that relationship, to me, is what is going to bring this in Newt's direction at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Pence offers all the advantages that Newt does as a conservative and a known commodity with Washington experience, but Pence doesn't have the downsides or the risk that Newt does. On the other hand, I think that the personal relationship is what I think will tilt this in the end to Newt Gingrich.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, there were some stories out, I think, over the weekend. Now 28 members, according to the Daily Wire, 28 members of the Rules Committee are in favor of changing the rules to allow delegates to become unbound. Now, this still has to pass through all the delegates, or a majority of the delegates. Last week, we had on Sandra Ziegler, who is a delegate here from Lubbock, who has said she absolutely will not vote for Donald Trump. What is the probability that we see the dump Trump movement gain any steam in Cleveland?
Yeah, keep in mind the Rules Committee is 112 members. It's two people from every state, and I think the last 10 or 12 people are appointed by the RNC chairman. They meet on Thursday and Friday to develop rules for this convention. There are no rules for the convention currently. They generally start with the convention's rules from 4 years ago, but there's always changes. One of the proposed changes will be to unbind all the delegates on the first ballot to essentially offer a conscience clause for delegates. Now, there's two things about this that matter. One is, yes, they have to get a majority of the 112-member Rules Committee to change the rules within the Rules Committee. That's unlikely. The second thing, and this is even more important, is they have to get 28 members, which it sounds like they have at the moment, to support to force this to go to the floor. They would essentially have a minority report. So the majority of the Rules Committee would pass their own rules. There would also be a minority report. Both versions would get a floor vote from all 2,500 delegates starting Monday of convention week. So that's where it's interesting. Rules Committee, I think, is much more insiders, much more susceptible to pressure from the RNC and the Trump campaign. 2,500 delegates cannot all be pressured by the RNC and the Trump campaign. So we are going to have a delegate rules fight on Monday at the convention, and that's where this thing is very unpredictable. I still think it's a 10 or 20% chance they unbind the delegates, but I think the VP choice matters greatly. If he chooses Michael Flynn, the retired lieutenant general, who's pro-choice and is a Democrat, I think the convention could erupt. And so, we'll see what happens, but I think this is a dynamic to definitely watch, and it's not going to be resolved until Monday at the convention.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt Mackowiak, also the co-founder of MustReadTexas.com. And Matt, unfortunately, a lot of bad news that I'm sure you've had to put up on the website. What do you have for listeners this week up on the website MustReadTexas.com?
Yeah, obviously, covering the terrible story in Dallas as much as we can. Would add one interesting note that Governor Greg Abbott was on vacation last week when this happened in Wyoming with his family. He actually was, I think, severely burned by some very hot water while he was there. But he decided, even with second and third degree burns, to go ahead and return to Dallas to be part of that the crisis response. And so some real toughness being shown by our governor there in service to our state. So we'll have news about that and other news from all around the state at mustreadtexas.com. Absolutely.
Matt, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Take care.
Have a good one. That's Matt Mackowiak. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak.